My fiancé's mom hated me. I thought she'd get over it. Until I found out why she was so invested in breaking us up. She hated me from the beginning. Not in the dramatic, movie mother-in-law way, no screaming fits, no wine glasses hurled at the wall. It was quieter than that. More deliberate. The kind of hatred you couldn't call out without sounding paranoid. Like when she hugged me for the first time and said, "Oh, you're taller than I pictured." Then turned to Caleb and added, "She must be from your father's side." A dig disguised as genetics. Caleb just smiled, kissed my cheek, didn't even notice. But I did, it never stopped. Backhanded compliments. Frozen smiles, gifts with tags still on them. I once brought her a bottle of wine I knew she loved. She handed it to her housekeeper with a smile and said, "Perfect, the stew could use something dry." The kind of thing that made you laugh awkwardly, made you look too sensitive for reacting. And Caleb. He'd say, "That's just how she is. She's always had a sharp tongue. Don't take it personally, she's like that with everyone." But she wasn't. She wasn't like that with his brother Asher, or Harper, her favorite niece, or even the dry cleaner she sent Christmas cards to. She was like that with me, always me. I'm 28. Caleb is 31, the kind of man you wait a long time to meet. Kind, steady. The person you trust to drive when you're anxious, and hold you while the soup simmers, and laugh even when your joke lands sideways. He loved me completely. And for a long time, I convinced myself that would be enough. That Lorraine, his mother, would come around. I helped her set tables, sent her links to dresses for the wedding, wrote her handwritten birthday cards. She'd respond with brief, clipped texts. Once mailed me a cookbook with a note that read, "This might help. I was raised to be polite, to bridge gaps, to win people over." But Lorraine, she never wanted to be won. She wanted me out. And I started to wonder if Caleb just didn't want to see it, or if he saw it, and was hoping I'd fold before he had to choose. Every holiday, every dinner, every tight-lipped smile she shot across the room. It started to wear me down. Not loudly, not suddenly, just a slow, emotional erosion until Thanksgiving, when Asher, her older son, pulled me aside as I was loading pie into the fridge. He waited until the kitchen was empty, then said, "You don't know the half of it." And that's when everything cracked. Because whatever game Lorraine had been playing, it had rules I hadn't even seen yet, and Asher had just opened the rule book. I tried everything. Seriously, everything. I sent her flowers on Mother's Day, tried to bond over recipes, invited her to my bridal dress fitting. She said she was too busy with work. Then I saw a photo on Harper's Instagram, Lorraine sipping wine in a robe with 3 other women by a pool. Captioned, "Girls' Weekend." Same day. Same exact day, Caleb said. "I'm sure she just forgot." I laughed, but not because it was funny. Because I realized he actually believed that. He thought forgot could explain 5 years of frozen smiles and knife-edged compliments. I brought up therapy once as a couple. He said, "It's not a relationship problem if only one person has the issue." I let it drop, but the pressure started leaking in anyway. Into our kitchen, into our texts. Into the way I started second-guessing everything I said when she was around. He'd sigh whenever I brought her up. Say things like, "You're just really different people." Or, "She needs time." But it had been 3 years. We were engaged. The date was set. The venue booked. How much more time did she need? At Thanksgiving, I carved the turkey. Lorraine brought a tofu loaf because not everyone likes their meat dry. Caleb smiled, said it was funny. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry either. I just went to the kitchen and opened the wine. Asher followed me in, waited until the dishwasher hummed behind us, then leaned against the counter and said, "You don't know the half of it." I looked up. He wasn't smirking, wasn't poking fun. He looked tired. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a mother-in-law who didn't like me. This was a woman protecting something, something big, and Asher had just cracked the lid. It started with the photo wall. Lorraine's house had one, a long hallway lined with perfectly spaced frames. Decades of family memories, birthdays, graduations, vacations, everything carefully curated in chronological order, but no photos of Caleb's father. Not one. I was at the house alone, grabbing extra napkins from the upstairs linen closet. She'd sent me up with that same frozen smile and a too sweet, "You don't mind, do you?" On the way back down, I paused, and really looked. Smiles, laughter, arms around shoulders. Baby Caleb in overalls, Asher blowing out candles, Lorraine with both of them, but always alone. No partner, no man. I asked Caleb about it that night. We were curled on the couch. Watching something forgettable, I said, "I've never seen a single photo of your dad. Why is that?" He stiffened, didn't turn to look at me, just said, "We don't talk about him much." And that was it, end of conversation. But something about the way he said it, soft, clipped, rehearsed, felt off like a line someone had fed him years ago. That night I called my therapist. I told her everything. The hallway, the silence, Asher's cryptic warning. Dr. Rhodes listened, then said, "Start asking who benefits from silence in that family." It sat with me, heavy, because Lorraine didn't just dislike me. She feared me, not for who I was, but for what I might find. The next family event was Christmas Eve dinner. Lorraine made her signature pot roast. The house smelled like rosemary and starch. Asher brought wine. Harper set the table. Caleb carved, and I brought a question. We waited until dessert. Apple pie, decaf coffee, the lull where everyone's tired and full and loose. Lorraine was mid-sip when I said, "What was your husband like?" It hit the room like a dropped glass. Forks stopped clinking. Harper looked at me. Asher looked at her. Caleb looked at me like I'd set the table on fire. But Lorraine. She froze, glass paused just below her lips, and she didn't answer. She didn't have to, because from the far end of the table, a voice said, "He wasn't her husband. He was mine." Aunt Moira, Lorraine's older sister, the one who never talked much, who always brought an extra pie, who'd once told me while folding napkins, "Family's a quilt, beautiful but stitched together with secrets." I hadn't understood what she meant, until now. Caleb blinked. Wait, what? But no one answered him, because the truth had already hit the table, and no one knew where to look, especially Lorraine. Turns out Caleb isn't Lorraine's biological son, he's her nephew. His father, James, was Moira's husband. When James left Moira and their newborn, Lorraine stepped in, took Caleb, raised him, gave him her last name, called him hers, and never told him otherwise. Not once. To the world, she was his mother. To him, she was his mother. But she wasn't. And now I knew, before he did, I couldn't sleep that night. I laid next to Caleb, watching the rise and fall of his chest, wondering what it would feel like to have your entire identity hidden in plain sight. His childhood bedroom at Lorraine's house was filled with her handwriting. His medical forms bore her signature. His birthday cakes always said son. And yet, none of it was real. Or maybe it was, in the way stories become truth when told long enough. But I couldn't unknow it, couldn't unfeel the shift. Lorraine didn't hate me because I was loud or different or not good enough. She hated me because I was close. Close to Caleb. Close to the one thing she'd kept under lock and key for 31 years. And close to becoming the person he'd trust with everything, even the truth she had built her life protecting. Asher confirmed it. I waited until the day after Christmas, asked him to meet me for coffee. He didn't hesitate, didn't stall, didn't even look surprised. We sat in a corner booth. He didn't even take off his coat, just looked at me and said, "She told you, didn't she?" I shook my head. Maura did. He closed his eyes, exhaled hard, then said, "I've known since I was 15. He told me he'd overheard Lorraine and Moira fighting late one night. He thought it was about money, but it wasn't. It was about Caleb. James had left when Caleb was still in diapers. Moira fell apart. Lorraine stepped in, but not for love. For control. She said Caleb needed structure. A clean slate. She changed records, told school administrators she was the mother, said James had abandoned her. When Asher confronted her years later, she cried, told him it was for the best. Said, "He'll be safer this way, stronger." Then promised she'd tell Caleb when he was old enough. Then when he turned 18, then 21, then when he graduated, then when he got engaged. Asher looked at me across that booth and said, "She never planned to tell him." He didn't defend her, but he didn't attack her either. He just looked exhausted. Like someone who'd been holding the weight of someone else's secret so long, he forgot what it felt like to stand upright. And now that secret was in my hands too, and it was getting heavier by the second. I sat with the truth for a week. Didn't sleep much, didn't eat much, barely looked Caleb in the eye, not because I was afraid of him, but because I was afraid of what silence was turning me into. I started catching myself in the mirror. Shoulders tense, mouth pressed tight, carrying someone else's lie like it was stitched into my skin. So I called Dr. Rhodes. I told her everything, the wall of photos, the pie-splitting dinner. The sentence Moira dropped like a pin that exploded the whole house. Then I asked, "What do I do with this?" She was quiet for a while. Then she said, "You cannot marry someone who does not know who he is, not until he has the choice to." It was so clear, so obvious, so cruelly simple. I couldn't love him honestly if I helped someone else keep him in the dark. So I sat him down that Friday, in our apartment. No music, no candles, just me, hands shaking, heart already breaking, and I told him everything. What Moira said, what Asher confirmed, what I'd seen on that photo wall. What Lorraine never said. Every word. I didn't look away, I didn't soften it, because he deserved the whole truth, even if it destroyed everything we were building. He didn't speak for what felt like an hour, just sat there, elbows on his knees, hands pressed over his mouth. I didn't interrupt, didn't try to soothe it. There's no soft way to break a person's entire origin story. Finally, he looked up, eyes glassy but dry. And he said, "I always felt like something was off." Then he laughed, once. It wasn't joy, it was recognition. "She used to flinch when I called her mom," he said, only for a second, like a reflex. I thought I imagined it. He rubbed his hands over his face. "I need to talk to her, alone." I nodded. I didn't ask for anything else. Not an answer, not a promise, not a plan. Because the man sitting in front of me wasn't mine to hold together right now. He left that night. Said he'd be gone a couple days. He was gone for 3, no texts, no calls, just absence. When he came back, he didn't knock. He just opened the door quietly and stood in the kitchen for a long time. The ring was still on my finger, but he looked at it, then at me, and said, "I need to become someone new before I can become someone's husband." Then he reached out, touched my cheek, and walked out again. We postponed the wedding indefinitely. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because love wasn't the point anymore. Truth was, identity was, healing was. Caleb moved into a sublet near the water. I stayed in the apartment a little longer, long enough to return the caterer's calls, cancel the dress fitting, box up the invitation samples. No one made a scene. There were no shouting matches, no crying fits, just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows impact. I moved out 2 weeks later, found a studio close to my office. Smaller kitchen, brighter light. Caleb's been going to therapy, so have I. Dr. Rhodes says I still talk about Lorraine like I'm bracing for something. She's not wrong. Lorraine hasn't spoken to me since Christmas Eve. Not a word. But Aunt Moira sent flowers. Peach roses, dark green eucalyptus. No card, just a single photo tucked into the bouquet. Me and Caleb, at a lake from last summer. We're both barefoot, standing ankle-deep in the water, laughing about something I can't remember now. But we look happy. Really, truly happy. And for a moment, I let myself believe. We could be again, just not yet. Caleb texted me last night, just one message. No lead-in, no overthinking, no punctuation gymnastics. "I'm not ready for forever, but I'm still sure it was supposed to start with you." I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't know how I felt, but because I finally did. I didn't reply, not yet, not because I was angry, not because I was punishing him, but because for the first time in months, I felt peace, the kind that doesn't come from a person, but from a boundary. I put my phone on the nightstand, turned off the light, and for the first time since that dinner table cracked open, I slept, no clenched jaw, no mental rehearsals, just breath and space, and something like hope. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.